Welcome to the Brookfield Zoning Commission regular meeting. Today is January 12th, 2023. This meeting is being held in Town Hall Room number 133. If you will please join me, we will now rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to ask all the commissioners to please introduce themselves, starting from my far left.
Kurt Timmerman, alternate.
Daryl Pratt, regular member.
Andrew Kane, secretary.
Gary Getz, chairman.
Vishendra Kumar, vice chairman.
Phoebe Holmes, regular member.
Mike Lucia, alternate.
Gwen Arment, alternate.
Thank you. The next item up on our agenda is number 2, public hearings. Item A, Z-22-71, Charles Lichtenauer of Chipman Mizuko Emerson LLC of Danbury, Connecticut. Zoning regulation change to permit places of worship / Paris houses and centers, provided a minimum lot area of 120,000 square feet as special permit use in the C1 zone. At this time, I will now read the introduction to the public hearing. Brookfield Zoning Commission on January 12th, 2023. This is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in our agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of White Star Properties, LLC, by its attorney Charles O. Lichtenauer of Chipman Mizuko Emerson LLC. Application number Z-22-71 for allowance by special permit, quote, places of worship / Paris houses and centers, quote, on lots of at least 120,000 square feet in the C1 zone. Again, as a matter of protocol, could we please just ask all the members to once again introduce themselves, starting with my far left.
Kurt Timmerman, alternate.
Daryl Pratt, regular member.
Andrew Kane, secretary.
Gary Getz, chairman.
Vishendra Kumar, vice chairman.
Phoebe Holmes, regular member.
Mike Lucia, alternate.
Gwen Arment, alternate.
Thank you. We will open this public hearing by calling upon the commission secretary to please read the legal notice of this hearing.
From the town of Brookfield to the News Times Legals, from Amy Curran, Land Use Administrative Assistant, dated December 12th, 2022, for publication. The Zoning Commission of Brookfield will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 100 Pocono Road, room 133, at 7 p.m. on January 12th, 23, of an application for a zoning regulation change on behalf of White Star Properties LLC to allow, by special permit, places of worship / parish centers, parish houses and centers on lots of at least 120,000 square feet in the C1 zone. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications received. Files are available for inspection at the town hall. This is dated December 12th, 2022. Gary Getz, chairman.
Thank you. This application was formally received by the commission on November 21st, 2022. The public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for the purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application and to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, the commission has 65 days in which to render a decision on this proposal. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into the record the correspondence received by the commission relative to this application, we will ask the recipient to present the application in detail. The presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Comments must be limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during this segment of the hearing and may also submit their concerns in writing during the public hearing. During this segment, the commissioners may ask additional questions. The bylaws of the commission allow only for the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments pro or con. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address so that your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application, and in view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. After the public comments are received, the applicant will have the opportunity to comment, and the time will be limited to 10 minutes. Are there any questions? We shall now ask the secretary to proceed with the reading of the correspondence.
We have two pieces of correspondence. The first dated December 2nd, 2022, to Mr. Getz, Chairman of the Zoning Commission, Town of Brookfield, from the Land Use Department and Land Use Director. Dear Mr. Getz, the Planning Commission reviewed an application by Charles O. Lichtenauer, Esquire of Chipman, Mizuko, Emerson, LLC, on behalf of White Star Properties, LLC, which seeks to amend Section 4.2.A.2C of the Town of Brookfield zoning regulations. The change would allow, by special permit, the use of properties in the C1 zone as places of worship in parish houses and centers, provided a minimum lot area of 120,000 square feet. At its meeting of December 1st, 2022, members of the Planning Commission determined that such change is consistent with the principles and objectives of Brookfield's 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development. By a vote of 4-0-0, the Commission recommends the Zoning Commission look favorably upon this application. We also have a correspondence from the Westcog group in Connecticut, from Kirsten Floberg, who's the senior planner, regarding the Connecticut statutory referral to Westcog from Brookfield regarding the attached zoning amendment dated November 28, 2022. Thank you for submitting the attached referral to Westcog. The opinion of the Westcog staff is that the proposal is of local interest and with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it is not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities, and the regional staff is making no comment. Please send future referrals to referrals@westcog.org. That is the correspondence we have received.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We shall now ask, the chair is now prepared, rather, to hear the applicant's presentation. Please do state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Charles Lichtenauer. Ward Mizuko and I work on land use applications together. Our law firm is Chipman Mizuko Emerson, LLC. We have an office at 44 Old Ridgeberry Road in Danbury. We represent White Star Properties, LLC, with respect to the application to amend the zoning regulations that is before you this evening. As stated in the application materials, we propose an amendment to Section 4.2A.2C of the regulations, which would permit, quote, places of worship / parish houses and centers, provided a minimum lot area of 120,000 square feet as a special permit use in the C1 zone. The amendment would consist of the addition of the letters SP in the C1 zone column for places of worship on the permitted uses table in Article 4 of the zoning regulations. The amendment would provide flexibility to religious institutions in establishing a place of worship in the town, which is consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development and will not negatively impact the public health, welfare, and safety of the town. As stated earlier, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend that this commission look favorably upon the application. Now, I know that the Commission is very familiar with Connecticut zoning law and related areas of Connecticut law, But this is one of those occasions where law that is outside of the commission's typical area of expertise comes into play. And for that reason, I included excerpts of a federal law called the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act in the application materials. I submitted that along with its Connecticut counterpart, and then later supplemented the application via the online portal with case law, which I hope will guide your deliberations this evening. The reason I included this supplemental information is that the federal law directly addresses the issue presented to you this evening. The law states that, quote, no government shall impose or implement a land use regulation in a manner that treats a religious assembly or institution on less than equal terms with a non-religious assembly or institution. And in this paragraph here, government does include municipal agencies like this commission. The application that is before you would bring the Brookfield zoning regulations into compliance with this law, because the current regulations in section 42A10A permit, quote, assembly halls and theaters as a special permit use in the C1 zone, whereas section 42A2C prohibits places of worship in the C1 zone outright. The case that I submitted, which is called Elijah Group Incorporated versus the City of Leon Valley, is an appeal brought in federal court by a church which challenged zoning regulations that treated churches on less than equal terms than similarly situated non-religious institutions. In that case, the court found that zoning regulations which allow non-religious institutions to apply for a special permit, but do not allow similarly situated religious institutions to apply for a special permit in a particular zone violate the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. As I noted in the application materials, this amendment is not site-specific. Any concerns about the effect of a place of worship at a specific location in the town of Brookfield may be addressed at the special permit phase. The request is not to use any location in the C1 zone for religious purposes as of right, but rather only by special permit approval. So, to reiterate, the purpose of this application is to allow churches and places of worship to be allowed by special permit where other assemblies are allowed by special permit in the C1 zone. And with that, I would welcome any questions or comments. Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions at this time? Does the audience have any questions of clarification before we hear comments pro or con? The chair is now prepared to recognize those who wish to speak in favor of this application. Seeing none, the chair is now prepared to recognize those who wish to speak in opposition to this application. Yes. Please approach the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Nicholas Miller. I live at Andover, 8 Andover in Rolling Woods. My concern more or less is traffic and congestion at the entrance to where this church is going to be. Hacienda is there now, creates a lot of traffic trying to pull in and out. Now you add that other traffic. He says it's not, made a point that it's not going to be detrimental to the area. I think it's going to cause more problems for the traffic. Zoning, I don't know if that incurs different taxes for us that live there. Do they go up? Do they go down? I don't have any answers to that. If anybody does have answers to that, I would like to have those answers. But I don't have any problem with anybody professing their faith. I want to get that out of the way as well. They have every right to do what they want to do. I just have been there for 20 years. Never had a problem, never had issues. The restaurant's busy, but you get the flow. It's just, I don't know what it would be with more people coming in and out of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, you're speaking in opposition to the application,
Yes.
though, okay? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the application? Do any of the commissioners have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, please go ahead, Mr.
Thanks.
Kane.
I just want to be clear, you mentioned some legal cases in that, but you're actually representing White Star Properties, which is a real estate concern. You're not representing the church?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, I'm representing White Star Properties LLC, which is the owner of the property at former Fox Hill Inn. I should probably make a point of clarification that at this stage, we aren't discussing at this public hearing any specific site in the C1 zone, but rather a regulation change for the zone itself.
Right, I just wanted to be clear, because it was my understanding that the application for zone or regulation change, the applicant was White Star Properties LLC.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If I may,
Just a comment.
please,
Uh,
Mr. Timmerman.
As the applicant mentioned, this applies to the entire zone. So that means all the properties all the way down to the bottom of Federal Road, not just around Rollingwood. Or, I'm sorry, C2 all the way up to wherever C2 ends, which is around Costco and further.
The assisted living, I think.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
The
Mr.
Linden?
Lichtenauer?
The Linden.
Okay, I think we have another question.
Oh, I have
Mrs.
another
Arment?
question. Wasn't there traffic there before when it was an event venue?
I think-
And wasn't that several days a week as opposed to a Sunday or a Saturday? That's my question.
And who is that directed to?
Anyone.
Okay. Are you able to answer, or?
Sure, I can respond by saying that traffic considerations can be discussed at the special permit phase, which any property that seeks to be a church in the C1 zone will have to come and do a public hearing to get that stamp of approval for a particular piece of property.
So this is just in general.
Correct.
And if I may, could you just kind of confirm and clarify how you cited this Elijah case as a comparative case to this application?
Sure. So this case is a case brought to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals where there was a church which was denied the opportunity to apply for a special permit in a zone where other places of assembly that were non-religious were able to apply for a special permit in that same zone. I think that's a pretty analogous situation to what we have here. And in that case, the court held that the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act prohibited the zoning commission from enacting or imposing regulations that treated differently non-religious assembly halls and religious institutions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Well, if I
add
may,
something to that?
I'm just going to finish,
Oh,
if you don't
sure.
mind.
No problem.
In the case you cited with Elijah, though, that was the applicant, actually, the church, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Also, I was wondering, do you know of any Connecticut case law that you could cite relative to this?
There is not any case law that I'm particularly familiar with at this point. I'd be happy to supplement the record. But because this is a federal law, typically these issues are resolved in federal court. And there is a decent amount of idea sharing between the federal courts. You'll see that this is the Fifth Circuit. You know, we would be dealing with the Second Circuit around here, but there is pretty consistent jurisprudence among the federal courts with regard to the implementation of this Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act.
Thank you. Mr. Timmerman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed there's also a parallel where in this case, they actually had amended the zoning in their town to remove the ability for religious to have special permits, similar to what happened in our rewrite. So they had a change in 2007 that took that away, and in our rewrite, it was dropped from our C1 zone. So that same parallel happened and is bringing up the same issue.
If I may, as one who was on that committee, what was the rationale when you folks implemented that?
We didn't, for that, it was a mistake and oversight, because there's so many things were changing, and we split the zone into 2 zones. That came as an oversight right there.
I will note that on the grid that you provide, it's rather glaring that there's boxes that are empty for special permits. Well, thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. Holmes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did
Welcome.
have a question for Mr. Lichtenauer about the Planning Commission. How many times did you guys meet with them? Was it recent?
We did not meet with the Planning Commission. We submitted
Okay.
we submitted the application to the Land Use Department, and it was referred to the Planning Commission for a vote. We
And
don't.
you said they looked favorably upon
They
so they
referred-
just looked at the paperwork, or
In the referral, so.
how
I
did
should
that
say
work?
that in order for the application to get to this commission, it needs to first be reviewed by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did hold a meeting, I believe on December 1st.
Okay.
And they discussed the application that's before you today. And they asked the Land Use Director, Ms. Hadza, to draft the recommendation that you see in the record.
Okay. Did they talk about traffic at all, or anything?
You know, I would respectfully push back on the traffic consideration, as it doesn't relate to, you know, as this stage itself does not relate to any specific property, and so to allow, you know, the zone itself allows by special permit assembly halls, a multitude of other gathering spaces, and they're allowed by special permit for among many purposes, traffic review. So this would bring churches in line with other gathering places in the zone, such that when an assembly type use is sought by a particular applicant, they have to go through that site plan review and that special permit review, I should say, before getting approval. And so, does that answer your question?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kane?
Yeah, I just had one comment, and I want to thank Commissioner Holmes for bringing that up, because it sparked the basis for the comment. In the Planning Commission, I did watch the Planning Commission hearing, and I also did download the Planning Commission's Prince of Brookfield's 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development. It didn't appear that the meeting at the Conservation Commission really discussed the matter in any impactful way. I also did take a look at the 2015 Plan of Conservation and Commission Development, and actually searched it for places of worship, religious houses, churches, parish houses, and centers. And I could find no matches for those queries in that document. So while they concluded that it is consistent, it appears to me that there was no mention of that within that document. That's not to say that it prohibits it, but it certainly didn't encourage it. So I'm not quite sure how the what the commission's logic was, but I just wanted to bring that up, bring that point forward.
Sure. Mr. Commissioner, would you like me to respond to
Yes,
that?
yes,
Okay.
Please do so.
Sure, so.
Were you at the hearing with the commissioner?
I was not at
Okay.
the hearing, no, and Mr. Lally can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the applicant had the right to be at the hearing or make any statements at the hearing in the first place. And so, you're right, the discussion before the vote to recommend this application was rather brief, though toward the end, in the informal discussion section, they did discuss the application a little bit more at length. And the recommendation, from my perspective, was favorable. And I think that's reflected, obviously, in the unanimous vote. With respect to the POCD, yes, it is sparse with regard to places of worship, but in my appendix to the application, on page 2, where I say amendment is consistent with the plan of conservation and development. You're right, it doesn't speak exactly to the issue that we face tonight, but it does highlight the importance of Brookfield's religious communities on the community character, among other things. Those would be located at page 30 and page 32.
And if I may, did the Planning Commission make any citation back to the Plan of Conservation and Development when they said it was consistent, like where it showed that it was?
I don't have that particular letter from the Planning Commission in front of me, but I don't, upon my last review, I don't believe they specifically referenced any page of the POCD, but I think that they did determine that it was consistent with the POCD and would not negatively impact the public health, welfare, and safety.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else? Is there any interest in making any motion relative to this application at this time?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would like to see the application continued if it's possible. I think there's a lot of information was brought up by the attorney, referencing quite a bit of information with respect to court cases, both at the federal level and also regarding the zoning commission's, the planning commission's plan of conservation and development. So I personally, I would like a chance to review all that in detail.
Is there a second to Mr. Kame's motion?
I'll make a second.
Mr. Pratt has seconded Mr. Kame's motion. Is there any discussion about the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please do signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Next item, number 3 on the agenda, possible action on closed public hearings. We have none at this time. So we'll move to number 4, review minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes from the November 10th, 2022 meeting that was tabled from December 8th. I don't know if members have had a chance to look at the minutes, but I can just summarize by saying there was a question about who made a motion. That was the key issue, and I think that was since resolved. It was Mr. Timmerman was credited with making the motion, and it turned out, I believe it was Mr. Pratt.
Do I want to take credit? It was Mr. Pratt. So if you go to page 3, on section 3, last paragraph, second word, Timmerman, should be struck and replaced with Pratt.
Oh, okay. It looks like it still says that, huh?
Well, it won't change until next time.
Is there any other changes to the minutes at this time?
To these minutes?
Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Mr. Timmerman?
Mr. Secretary, if it pleases the commission, I would like to make the motion that we accept the minutes as amended by Mr. Timmerman and approve them.
My only question, Mr. Secretary, is if you're making the motion, you can't direct it to yourself. I would prefer you called me Mr. Chairman, not that I'm hung up on the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as amended by Commissioner Timmerman.
Mr. Kame has made a motion about the November 10th minutes to accept them as amended. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Komar has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion to accept the November 10th, 2022 as amended minutes has passed. Next, we have the December 8th, 2022 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments related to
Yes.
those?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Lucia.
I was absent, so. It says absent none, but I was not there.
Oh, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, I found a correction in the section. On page 6, paragraph 7, for C 101 Park Ridge Road, the 7th paragraph says, Mr. Kame asked about the truck traffic. It says most of the traffic would come in through the park versus Vale Road. Actually, it should be through the park via White Turkey Road versus Vale Road. So if you put in via White Turkey Road just before the verses. So that was a question an audience member had.
So strike the park?
No, right between park and verses, put in
Oh,
via
via
White Turkey
White
Road.
Got it.
So come in through the park via White Turkey Road versus Vale Road.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Timmerman. Any other comments? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as now amended?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of the December 8th regular meeting of the zoning commission as amended by Mr. Timmerman's corrections.
Mr. Kame has made a motion to accept the December 8th minutes as amended. Do we have a second?
Second?
Mrs. Holmes has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended for December 8th, 2022, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion to accept the December 8th, 2022 minutes as amended passes. Next item up on the agenda is enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Zoning Enforcement Officer's report.
Sure.
Mr. Lau.
I'll make a correction. When you see 107 Stony Hill Road, I do have it under notice of violation, and sorry about that. That should have been transferred over to a cease and desist order at the commission's request at the previous meeting. I did issue a cease and desist. I'll do it right now. Was issued on December 13th. The owner came into the office and met with Rochelle Hadza. I was out absent sick. She had met with the owner out there. He relayed to her that he was gonna start cleaning the property. I personally visited the property on 12/28, and the owner is out there making progress. He removed a lot of the equipment, making numerous attempts to get it property cleaned up. Heard the story that he came home after work, he would leave stuff there. But I do have updated pictures, which I can show the commission if they like. But he is making an extensive amount of progress out there to get the property cleaned. And I am monitoring on a daily basis, as is Rochelle. So we are both working with that property owner, and hopefully by the next meeting, we can remove this from the enforcement report. Moving on to that, under the notice of violation is 47 High Ridge Road, the Salas residence. That is still pending with the town attorney with, under the blight regulations and blight panel. So there's no really update on that. So we haven't had a blight meeting in December, so I'll have an updated report. We're having our first blight meeting this month, towards the end of the month, so I'll have an update as to where that stands. The 67 Long Meadow Hill Road, I've been watching that the property's been clean over there. There's been no more contractor's equipment in the yard. So as my report says, on 12/5, there was no vehicles on site any longer. So I am going to remove that from the report because there is no current violation there. So, next one is 35 Hidden Brook Drive, Torres residence. The building department received a complaint that the gentleman had built a garage on his property or on his home attached to his house. There was no building permit. I am working with the building department on that. I did send a notice of violation on 12/19, and I actually have no response yet from the owner of the property. Again, I apologize, I was out sick for like 6 days, but I will follow up with the building department on that to see if the owner has applied for a building permit on that one. 271 Federal Road, White Star Properties. Cease and desist was sent. I know at the commission's previous meeting, they had asked me to send a letter reminding the church that there's no church activities to be taking place. I did send that letter out as requested. I believe the commission all received a copy of that. I did not receive no response, nor has there been any complaints since probably a month and a half, 2 months, regarding any activity going on there. So, which is good. So, 31 Green Knoll Drive, the McGovern residence. I know Rochelle had been out there. She had met with Attorney Neil Marcus and Mr. McGovern as to the outcome of the property or the meeting out there. I do not know. I was not present for that meeting, so I really can't comment on that at this time. And Rochelle is actually out of town at this time. I do know Mr. Marcus is present here, so I don't know if the commission would like any response from him at this time, or want to just continue.
I leave that up to you. If you think it's appropriate, I don't know if it is at this time.
Yeah, then I would say no. Okay. But as far as I know, there's been no activity done on the property. To my understanding, that a citation would need to be issued again on the property, as per our ordinances require. So I don't know what the commission's decision is as to.
Do we have an interest in issuing another citation? Apparently, they need to be done periodically. I don't know that you're recognized to do a dialogue with the zoning enforcement officer's report?
He hasn't been out on the site, I have.
Thank you.
It's not correct. You want to hear that?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have not been on the site, so I
Okay.
don't know what the status of it is.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that since you weren't on the site, you really can't recommend any sort of action.
Action at this time.
Okay, so we would have to get a recommendation from Rochelle, the land use director, who did visit the site.
Yes.
She's not here tonight.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna have to be our course of action. that we
Okay.
Actually have somebody with direct knowledge to testify to the events before we took any action.
Yep.
So,
All right.
All right, thank you.
And then 89 Wisconsin Road, the Dillon residence, that's still awaiting the court ruling. Ruling from the court. There's been no update on that, so.
Is there another item on the agenda that you wanted to speak to? C? Oh, you already covered that, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
271, that was the letter that I sent to you.
All right, thank you. Anything further?
Nothing for me.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for Mr. Lally?
just a quick one. Did you know the date of that blight meeting, or approximately, or if we could let the commission know?
I will send an
that-
email for the.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Lally.
Thank you very much.
Next up, item number 6, review correspondence. We have no other correspondence to review at this time. Item number 7 is old business. There is no old business either. Item number 8 is new business. We have an application, item A, 202 Canterwood Lake Road, Z-22-73, Danbury Slovak Gymnastic Union Sokol, 202 Lake Road, Brookfield, Connecticut. Proposed zone designation change from R40 to MC. Did you want to speak to that, Mr. Lawley?
Yes, in talking with our town attorney, Barbara Schellenberg, she had suggested to me that the commission just acknowledge the application until planning gives their referral to do anything with it. So just a matter, just to make a notion that the commission has received the application and it's not taking any action at this time until planning makes their referral. So,
And do you need a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, Attorney Neil Marcus actually filed the application.
Okay.
I didn't talk to Barbara, fortunately. But it's my understanding, of course, that when you file the application, you have 65 days to set the public hearing, 35 days to complete the public hearing, and then 65 days to decide the issue. So I've chatted with, I think, with Michelle, actually, about scheduling for the planning commission. I believe it's gonna be at their first meeting in February, I thought. It's going to be on their agenda as a part of the 35. You referred to planning, and they have 35 days to make the report back to you. But it would seem to me that it might make sense to just set a public hearing date, because you're not gonna hold that until at least 2 or 4 weeks from now anyway. But it's up to you, I mean, wait till the next meeting.
Thank you.
and say-
I have correspondence regarding a special meeting that planning has scheduled for January 18th with regards to this application, so.
Okay, do we have a motion to table the item?
I'll make a motion to table the, sorry, were you gonna say something?
I was waiting for you to complete.
I apologize, January 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you just please state the motion fully?
Yes. Make a motion that we table the Danbury Slavic Gymnastics Union Sokol at 202 Candle Lake Road, Brookfield, Connecticut.
January 19th?
January 19th.
Well, actually, it's going to be 2 weeks from today, right?
A week from today.
We,
Our next meeting, though, right?
Oh, our next meeting's 2 weeks, yeah.
So what's that? January 26th.
2023.
I would like to second Mr. Pratt's motion.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made a motion to table item number Z-22-73, Danbury Slovak Gymnastic Union Sokol, 202 Canterwood Lake Road, proposed zone designation change from R40 to MC. Mr. Kame has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. Item number 9.
Question.
Oh,
Sorry, can I please ask Attorney Marcus for his first name and address?
Name and address?
Yes, please.
Oh, Neil Marcus, Conan Wolf, PC 158, Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, item number 9, there are no other, number 10 rather. Excuse me, item number 9, other business proper, there is no other business. Item number 10, tabled items. Still waiting to get some information on the revision of the zoning fee schedule. The land use director is working on that, so we'll talk to her the next time she's at our meeting. Item number 11, commissioner comments and informal discussion. If anyone has anything, please speak up. Hearing none. Item number 12, adjournment. We would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I can't make motions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like, if it pleases the commission, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting for the evening.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Pratt, seconded the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you and Happy New Year.